Mazda Miata has now been around for 4 generations, and with almost 1 million units sold, this is the most successful roadster of all time. We're in the 2016 ND 4th generation Miata. We know it's light, we know supposedly it handles well, but let's see if it's as fun to drive as everyone makes it out to be.
This is an extremely small car with an extremely small engine. A 2-liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder that makes 155 horsepower and 148 pound-feet of torque. So that's not a lot of horsepower, but that's okay because the car only weighs 2,300 pounds. This might be the lightest car that either of us have ever driven. 0 to 60 happens in an astounding time for a 155 horsepower car. Car and Driver and Motor Trend have both tested it to 60 in like 5.8 seconds, under 6 seconds, which is crazy for the amount of horsepower it produces, but it's a consequence of the car not weighing much at all, so that power is adequate.
It's funny when you see the quarter mile times, it's in the low 15s, which is actually decently quick, but its trap speed is so slow,
it's so low.
89 miles per hour,
yeah.
Because it's only got 155 horsepower. But in this day and age, when all cars are fighting for more horsepower, more tech, more luxury, it means they're getting heavier and heavier and larger, and you've got sedans and sports cars over 4,000 pounds,
yes, exactly.
And this is
half
of that.
Exactly. It's a rare vehicle on the road right now that it doesn't weigh 1 million pounds. It actually weighs less than one of the earlier generation vehicles, which is also astounding because this is airbags and some of the higher end models have some luxury features. So good job, Mazda.
You've got the base model, the MX-5 Sport, that starts at around $25,000. The auto transmission is a $1,500 option, and please do not get that. This car needs to be with the standard 6-speed manual. And it's a fantastic transmission as well. It's extremely easy to shift. The shift feel is fantastic. It can be a little crunchy in between gears, but there's no gear slop whatsoever. It almost feels like it has automatic rev matching. That's how easy it is to downshift. The car in general is just an absolute pleasure to drive, and that's in part thanks to how light it is.
Yes.
The steering is very light as well. It feels like an incredibly nimble, placeable car on the road. And it's 100 pounds lighter than the expensive carbon fiber filled Alpha 4C, so that is very impressive. Then you bump up to the club model, which we are driving right now. It gives you better looking 17-inch wheels, a 9-speaker Bose sound system, which with 9 speakers still doesn't sound great. all that great. But the most important feature is that it has a limited slip differential. That means you can send this car through turns, sideways, do little donuts and drifts. It's definitely a tossable car.
One of the best parts of the car is how easy it is to drive and how confidence-inspiring it is, because it is not intimidating. It's a small little chassis, it's light, doesn't have crazy amounts of horsepower, steering is friendly, it's easy to shift. So when you get in, you're immediately comfortable with throwing it around corners, and you know exactly where you're going to place it. It's not a scary vehicle to drive, and it just instantaneous fun as soon as you start driving it.
It reminds me a bit of the Cayman S. You know, when you drive a Porsche Turbo S, it's fast,
yes.
It's incredible, but it's intimidating and it's scary. You floor it, and then all you're doing when you're going into a corner is slamming on the brakes and fearing for your life. Versus this, you can accelerate, be on the gas longer throughout the straightaways, and the turns, you can carry higher speed, and you can have more fun at slower speeds. It's less dangerous,
yes,
because of the 155 horsepower. That you can have a little fun. You can drift it a bit because you can drift at a much lower speed than some of these cars with very wide tires and all-wheel drive that you got to be going 100 around a turn to break it loose. This is, in our opinion, the best looking MX-5 Miata so far. They've made the front end from what was the happiest looking car on the road to the happiest looking car on the road that's a bit more aggressive. It's much sharper, and the rear end looks almost a bit like an F-Type. However, the rear taillights look a bit like something that we won't say.
They look a little phallic.
The color combo is fantastic with this red exterior and the black BBS wheels. It does look like much more of a masculine car than Miatas in the past. And that's a good thing, because I think a lot of guys would love to drive these cars, and maybe they had a fear of it being too much of a girl's car, but
that's the reputation it has.
Not at all anymore.
Something I think that's interesting is it looks good with both the top up and down.
Definitely.
Some cars that they get turned from coupes to roadsters with the cloth tops up, the contrast, the way the lines flow, they just don't look as good with the top up as they do down. For example, F-Type, when the coupe came out, it makes the Roadster look not as good anymore. Certain cars are like that, but I think this looks really good with the top up and down.
Especially as a soft top.
Yes.
Often the hard top convertibles, you can't even tell the difference. Yeah. But of course we do have the new MX-5 coming out.
Targa, that looks really good too.
It does.
From an interior standpoint, the MX-5 is extremely basic. That's not to say that it's bad or uncomfortable. It just doesn't have all the crazy luxury tech features that some cars feature. But I think that's a good thing. It has everything that you would want of it. I've never gotten into this car and been like, oh, I'm really annoyed it doesn't have heated and cooled massage seats, because again, that is not the point of this vehicle.
And you can opt for the Grand Touring package, which does bring you heated seats and navigation, but I think it's unnecessarily raising the price of a car that's not supposed to have that stuff.
Exactly.
There's not a ton of leather in here, but it's very well designed. It's very clean looking. I like the kind of turbine style air conditioning vents. They did a good job.
It's thoroughly modern. I mean, you have the touchscreen that has navigation, your radio, the center tachometer and speedo are digital. There's a little screen that shows your fuel economy, temperature, pressure, everything. It's a modern interior, but it's not too luxurious, and that means it saves weight.
And also, it has a really cool feature with the manual transmission, telling you when to upshift in order to save fuel economy. So if you're cruising along in third gear at too high of an RPM, it suggests with a little arrow to go from 3 to 4. And sometimes it even skips gears, go from 3 to 5, which I think is cool.
Right now it's saying 4 to 5, 4 to 6 now, yeah.
So part of that leads to excellent fuel economy. It's very light with a 6-speed manual. The car gets over 30 miles per gallon in the highway and 27 in the city. I mean, you can drive this car aggressively and average 30 miles per gallon, which is...
The fuel tank is also tiny.
The fuel tank is tiny, 11.9 gallons.
Yeah, it was at like a quarter tank and I put 7 gallons and got in and it said full. I'm like, what? I was extremely shocked that.
But overall, I like the interior, and I do like this touch here where you've got kind of the exterior color bleeding into the inside as well.
Downside of the interior is that it's rather loud, road noise wise. It's a very thin convertible top. Again, this is not a Rolls Royce with a 18 layered top or whatever the heck it is. You get a lot of road noise at freeway speeds. It almost sounds as if you have the rear windows cracked in the car, but it's just because there's just wind noise and road noise. It also rides kind of hard over bumps, but as a consequence of that, it handles really well.
I actually like the way it rides. Sure, on really harsh bumps you're gonna feel it, but it's how it should be for a performance car. Yeah. They've done some cool things in the interior to save weight. One of which is the all-manual seats do not have a height control, and you'd think at first that's annoying, especially if you are a smaller or taller individual. But it's a combined height control. When you slide the seat forward, it actually moves the seat upwards, so shorter occupants can see over the steering wheel and the hood more. And then for the taller occupants, when you slide it back, it goes downwards. Now, I will say there's definitely a height at which neither position works for you. I'm sure having that extra adjustability might be nice, but it saves 17 pounds per seat.
That's a lot.
34 pounds is a lot of weight savings just for one feature.
Exactly. So the Mazda MX-5 has a manual convertible top. Simply push this lever up, open it up. The windows automatically drop so you can clear them when you pull the top out. You push it up, close that again, and it just folds over nicely, click shut. And you have a convertible.
All right, close that as fast as you can.
Done.
Yeah, so modern day hardtop convertibles and even soft top convertibles usually take I'd say 20 seconds. Even the fastest ones are 10 seconds, 15, and you just beat it.
Yeah, exactly. It's very simplistic. I mean, there's
absolutely
one hand.
Absolutely no reason to have the extra motors having more weight. I like it.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's literally a one-handed operation. So there you go.
Because it is a convertible, it doesn't really have that many competitors. The closest competitor really is the Subaru BRZ and the deceased Scion FRS. But that's cheaper, and you can't get it in a convertible yet. Its other competitors are much more expensive. Because the Alpha 4C comes to mind.
Yeah, fun little light, fast cars. Alpha
Cayman,
4C,
Boxster,
but those are double the price of this car.
Yeah. As a summary, here are some of the things we love and hate about it. First off, it is so light, and that makes it incredibly fun and easy to drive. It's incredible in the turns, it handles very, very well, and the lightness gives it both performance with not a large amount of power and good fuel economy.
Second, the shifter feel is one of the best I've ever felt in a manual transmission car. The pedal placement is perfect, it's really easy to put it into gear, downshifting, rev matching is great. It's a joy to have a car like this with a manual transmission.
Lastly, because of its small size, it's incredibly easy to drive in very many different locations. For instance, around town when there's traffic, you can weave in and out. You can park it really easily. And then on the back roads, it's more of like a go-kart on a real racetrack. You feel so small compared to the road around you.
It feels like you're driving a rollerblade. Some of the things we hated about the car. First of all, it's rather loud. Because of the way the convertible top is designed, it's not very well padded and insulated. At freeway speeds, it's extremely noisy. And after about 40 minutes on the freeway, I got kind of annoyed with it because it's just constant road noise.
Because of its width and how low it is, unfortunately, if you're driving at nighttime, often when vehicles come up behind you, their headlights go straight into both the left and right mirrors and blind you entirely. It doesn't have fancy auto-dimming mirrors, of course, but it's a little bit of a unexpected problem.
Yes. Lastly, the price/value. Again, the base ones are a bit cheaper, but once you start optioning up with the luxury features and the higher trim models, the price starts to climb. And because it's kind of a specialty niche vehicle, you really have to know what you want in order to buy it. Because for $33,000, there's a lot of new and used performance vehicles that will be faster, more comfortable, more luxurious, maybe less fun, but you better know what you're getting into if you get an MX-5. But if you get one, you'll love it, because we have loved it for a week and it's hell of a lot of fun. Every
time we've driven it, we've fallen more and more in love with this car. Fun is just the way to describe it. Yep. It's not incredibly exciting because it doesn't have the brutal all-out speed, but it's so tossable, it's so easy to drive that it's an absolute pleasure, and it puts a smile on your face that's as big as the smile that's been on the front end of the Miatas for 4 generations now. Well, special thanks to Mazda Corporate for letting us have this car. Like always, please browse our channel and subscribe. Look forward to seeing you next video.